Radio Retro Future.
Which means it's time for another episode of Radio Retro Future. Good night, everybody. And today we have our honored guest, Dale Rowles, musician and member of BB BlackDog. How are you doing, Dale?
Hello, yeah, very good actually, yeah. It's good to be here.
Yes. So, let me get my questions. Well, let's just start. Let's start with introducing you. So, who are you? What do you do in your daily existence?
That's a hard one, really. Yeah.
That makes it more interesting.
Explain your life in 5 minutes or so.
Well, let's just start with, what do you do as an artist?
Yeah, I kind of make music, really. But yeah, we've never been really famous. We get paid a little, so I have to do other things to survive. So we ended up running festivals, a record label now. I play solo, I play with a band, I play with a duo sometimes, I do session work. Basically, a lot yeah, to survive, but it's all fun. So, yeah.
So, well, let's start with how you got where you are today. How did you become an artist?
Oh, that's a long story, really. Started at school. Yeah, I started at school. Yeah, played in school bands, did quite well. Went to music college after A-levels. And then, from there, really just ended up playing pretty much professionally, kind of semi-professionally, messing around until my 20s when I ran away from music. People were taking too many drugs and dying around me and things, and I don't know. I had to change my life from being a punk. So I went to work for an insurance company, became a fund manager for a while, did lots of things in the money world, really.
Really? You worked for the devil?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I was a pension fund manager. Quite good at it as well, apparently.
Okay.
They paid me a lot of money, I suppose, for a while. Anyway, then came a divorce and a loss of a lot of money with a business venture and a few things. So then I went back to study music. And, for a while looked after my grandmother. And then since then, pretty much been playing music ever since. So, over 20 years again now, pretty much full time, apart from caring for various people in the family at different times. So yeah, it keeps me busy. That's how I got to be a musician, really. As for Steampunk, that's a whole different story.
Okay. Well, before you tell us about it, could you could you put into words what your relation is with music? Why music?
Don't know, I always liked music, really. My father sang. They sang in a skiffle band in the 50s. And I grew up with him singing around the house. My parents listened to music. I was always into electronics as well. I remember when I was small, I took apart and mended my parents' record player, which they never did manage to put back together again. And then I don't know, there were certain bands came along, originally T-Rex and glam rock, early rock 70s. And then I discovered people like Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, early 70s rock. And then from there it just went on, really. And I always played guitar. I had guitar lessons when I was young. Then gave them up because I hated the Spanish flamenco style. And then later on took it up again, playing along to songs I heard on the radio, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who were your great idols? You already mentioned Black Sabbath, but could you name other specific artists that really inspired you back in those days?
Oh, there's a big list, really, but Cream, Eric Clapton, I suppose, but Cream, really. I quite like some of the psychedelic stuff, Yes, Pink Floyd. Yeah, but really it was probably Black Sabbath that introduced me to dark, heavy music, and I just thought, wow, this is so heavy and so early. And I always liked horror films and things, so it kind of went together. And science fiction. That's another thing I inherited from my father, really. It was him that always let me stay up that extra hour to watch the scary science fiction film.
Okay.
That, funnily enough, is on a Sunday afternoon now on the Children's Channel or something, but at the time it was kind of supposed to be scary. The Incredible Shrinking Man, actually, that's on next week. Well, that was one I remember. But yeah, but it's actually on afternoon television tomorrow, I think.
Okay. So, you already mentioned, how did you learn about steampunk and how did you get into it, so to speak?
You keep asking me questions that could have very long answers, but I'll try and keep it short. We didn't really. It was another strange kind of accident, like a lot of things. I was doing some session work, working for a company in China a bit, all on the music side, and then I just met this German guy at a party in 2005 or 6, I think, 2005, and he came over to England, and once we'd made friends, he was actually a guitar builder. And he'd been in a quite a famous German death metal band called Incubator in the early days.
I haven't listened to anything of them, but I heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah. They were quite big, especially in the north of Germany. So he's building guitars, and because I was working for this Chinese instrument company selling guitars, I got a lot of contacts in the UK and around Europe, really. So he came over, we sold a few of his guitars, and for a joke, we said, hey, let's make a song in my friend's practice rooms with 2 basses and things and see if it sounds musical. So we did, and it did, and then I thought nothing of it. Probably 3 months later, he'd been given a birthday present by the old guitarist from Incubator, actually, who got a studio, of some studio time. So he said, do you want to come over and we'll try and record some things with 2 bass. We have a German drummer who will come for a few days and it'll be fun. So we did, and then 10 years later nearly now, I've still got the band BB BlackDog. But nobody knew where to put us because 2007, a band with 2 basses that plays kind of weird, psychedelic, strange music. And I was dressing in a tuxedo with bow tie, and the drummer wore all pink with a pink cowboy hat and a boa on it.
He still does, right?
No, he left 2 years ago. We have a new drummer now. He's a little more kind of pirate Viking, strangely enough. But yeah. So, and then we had this bass player who wore kind of an Indian outfit with strange things hanging from it. As in American Native Indian. So nobody knew where to put us, and then we played a few goth shows because we sounded kind of dark, and people started calling us steampunk. So I don't know, between 2009 and 2011 people kind of called us steampunk, and I suppose we looked it a bit. And then around 2010, 2011 we'd played a few steampunk events, loved it, made a lot of friends, and thought, okay, we'll call ourselves steampunk as well now then. So again, the whole thing's been an accident really, from forming the band to which led to steampunk to which led to us running steampunk festivals and a steampunk record label. It's all just kind of evolved and happened really. We never set out with any of it.
It's peculiar. Did you change your aesthetic style since then?
I definitely, I went from wearing the tuxedo to kind of military outfits and the military style, peace army outfits or something. So, yeah, we definitely embraced the steampunk and gone that way more and more. And of course, since then, we started with the back characters and, well, this was probably about, by the time we'd released all this stuff, it was 2011 really. So from about 2010, we actually embraced it and started directly aiming to be or dress steampunk. Although we did make a conscious decision not to write all our songs about airships and werewolves and Victorian themes, because there were already not so many bands then, but already Abney Park, Victor Sierra, Birthright in England. There were quite a few bands around, Ghostfire. They were doing that already, so we thought we'd just carry on writing about life, love, things that are universal, without really a time frame in the songs. Yeah, but we kind of made a conscious decision to do that rather than singing about Isabella and steamships constantly, and you know.
Yeah.
We just thought there was enough people doing that.
Right.
But everybody falls in love in every century, so.
That's true.
Yeah, we thought it didn't matter really. Yeah.
So where do you get your inspiration for your songs from?
Everywhere really. It's a strange thing. We tend to write in batches. Usually when we're travelling, because I get bored. So I have a notepad. I write ideas for songs and then fiddle with them and make them better. And then I have a large book full of lyrics ready. And then when we go in the studio, we pretty much write and record at the same time, pretty much live. So we practice a few times, write a song, that work, record it probably 3 times, pick the best one, and bang, we've got a recording. So yeah, it's a strange way of writing in a way. I do the lyrics first, then we make a good groove for a song, and then look which lyrics fit to that, and then arrange it into an actual full song. But it kind of works, and it means we can do it in solid blocks, because obviously if you're kind of trying to be semi-pro, some people still have to work, so it's nice to be able to do everything in a week or something rather than taking 3 years of 2 hours on a Wednesday night.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So when is the next time are you going to delve into the studio and work on the batch?
I don't know really, because we're way ahead of the game, and we didn't really gig for 2 years when Axel left, until I found Don, the new drummer. So we've been holding back releases that we've already recorded. So I've actually got 5, possibly 6 albums already recorded, mastered, finished. And we've got the artwork for the 3rd album, and well underway on the 4th album. But I've been that busy with everything else, and we're not having a band really. They've been on the back burner. So I'll move them further forward soon, I think. But I want to get Steampunk Records on the festivals running really well first, before I spend more time on the band.
Yeah. But you have no indication of when you have time to release the next album.
Hopefully, if all goes to plan, which it never does, it'll be towards the end of this year, the 3rd album for our band. But in the meantime, we're just releasing albums like crazy under Steampunk Records, compilations. Well, we have the live one from last year's festival out, which kind of funded Steampunk Records Volume 1, which we've already sold enough to fund Volume 2, which is about ready to be released now, which will then fund Volume 3 and so on.
Okay, so, before we continue, what is Steampunk Records? Because you mentioned it a number of times, but you haven't really explained yet what it is.
Bizarrely enough, it was another accident. We'd started a little record label, but hadn't released, just for our own CDs, and hadn't released anything yet. And then I was looking for a website so we could call it something, and I found Steampunk Records was free, so I bought them all, net.com, whatever, and we released our first album under it. And then people said, well, you know, you've got a shop running now, can we put our CD on your shop, kind of? So we said yes, and now we have 22 bands, I think, when we put the next ones on.
Okay.
And we're on I'm just putting together the third compilation CD now.
Okay.
But we run it all as a non-profit, a separate bank account. All the money goes back in. Then we make compilation CDs with the idea once we get up to a few thousand spare in the bank, we'll start making free samplers for everybody to give away en masse. So really it's a non-profit self-funding thing just to promote steampunk music and ourselves. So.
Okay, so these 22 bands are all steampunk bands?
Yeah. They either play steampunk music or they look like steampunks or they play at steampunk festivals a lot.
Okay.
But I think there's a definition of 5 things to be a steampunk band or that somebody came out with some time ago. I can't remember all, but they said if you're 3 of the 5, then I think a backstory was 1. Yourselves or other people calling you steampunk was another.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Using old instruments, But if you've got 3 of the 5, they say you're steampunk.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
To me, if steampunk's like your music, then you're kind of steampunk.
Yeah, that's one of the first things that Monty ever told me. There's no such thing as steampunk music, just music steampunk's alike.
Yeah.
And
and we've been at it a long time now, and we've never tried to make steampunk music, but we've played probably every steampunk festival. Well, we've definitely done 2 continents and most of the countries in Europe now. So.
Okay, could you name a few of the bands you have on your label?
Yeah, I can actually. I'm like a good boy. I even opened a Word doc because I've got a terrible memory, so I can. So we've got Feline and Strange from Germany. Very nice, very dark duo with cello and stuff. I don't believe you. Have you? You must have seen them, have you?
I know the name.
I think they played at. I don't know if they played in Holland. They definitely played at Bochum.
Maybe I recognize
them
from there. Yeah. But I must admit I'm not so big in the steampunk music, so.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get somebody to do the show just with steampunk musicians. Because you say there are 22, they are from different countries, I get?
Yeah, oh yes, we've got quite a few German. I think we're just having the first Dutch band join, we're just talking to them, but I won't name it in case it messes up.
Okay, I would be interested because I never heard of a Dutch steampunk band, so please keep me informed about that.
Yeah, Tessa's had a few. There was a metal band, I think, she had that was very steampunk, or steampunk dress, anyway. Yeah, there's been a few at the Arnhem event over the years. Kind of steampunk dress.
It's
anyway,
Root, I know. Yeah, that's much more gothic, but
yeah,
makes a good fit. Maybe.
Yeah, but yeah, there's quite a few German ones in particular. And then we have Metropolis, which they've been around quite a while actually, English band. They do the kind of space rock psychedelic circuit, same as BB BlackDog do actually. And they're kind of steampunk space rock, kind of, a little psychedelic-y kind of style, which kind of, I always think, fits with steampunk, science fiction, space. Yeah, they've been doing very well, playing a lot of festivals. Then we have the Wattingers. I don't know if you've seen the Wattingers, but they are one of my favourite bands.
Okay.
It's Slaughterhouse Steampunk Blues. I don't know. It's well worth looking them up.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I'm actually compiling a playlist on the Radio Retro Future channel with all kinds of bands, and sometimes when I go looking, I discover a new one. So I add at least one song of every band I can discover. So maybe you can give me some names to add to that playlist.
Yeah, the Wattingers are particularly excellent. Although they have a very strange humour and very strange style. It's kind of American Southern Deep South, redneck kind of Deliverance film style. Yeah.
Is it kind of like Strawfoot
I don't know. Kind of. If you imagine, well, the songs are things like this here's a song about one man's love for another man's goat.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
The real redneck.
Yeah, it's very dark, and the one guy's got this kind of preacher outfit on, like the film Night of the Hunter, if you've ever seen it, or like something from the Holy
No, but
Mountain.
I'm getting an image of what they're like. And they
then,
were called. What you say they were called?
The Wattingers.
Oh, these are still the Wattingers. Okay.
Yeah, and the other guy, last time he was wearing a wedding dress covered in blood with a steampunk mask on top.
Awesome.
And the show is really amazing. They always have a film running behind that goes with the song. Yeah, so they're one of my favourites, I must say. I shouldn't really have favourites, but yeah, you know. And then of course Professor Elemental. Everybody knows Professor Elemental. The new Jacobin Club from Canada. They're very good. They did a tour of the UK and did the Morecambe Steampunk event this year, and we played with them in Nottingham. Very nice guys and girls, and a fantastic show. Yeah, we really like them as well. Yeah.
Okay, well, could you say that the steampunk music scene exploded the last couple of years?
Definitely. I mean, when people were calling us steampunk, if you search for steampunk bands, you could probably find 3 in England, and then a few more in America.
What time is this? 2009?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and really hard to find any steampunks at all on the continent. Obviously, with us having a German drummer and German bass player originally, we were looking for steampunk events in Germany for a long time, and Holland and Belgium, but couldn't find any really, only small gatherings. But the last, say, 2 years, there's so many now. Every weekend there's probably 2 somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
Big ones, fairly big. So yeah, as for bands, yeah, there weren't not really any bands at that time, or not so many. So everybody kind of knew each other. And then, yeah, slowly more and more bands came, and then the last 2 years, like I say, there's been an explosion of everything, really. More festivals, more bands, more diverse styles. Yeah, fantastic. What makes it all the big mash that I love is steampunk, really.
And you also work a lot together with Montague Jacques Fromage. How did that come to be? Was that also a coincidence, or?
I could say we just adopted him.
Oh, but, okay.
It's back to the Phoenix story, actually. Originally, the journey into steampunk in 2012. Abney Park were booked. Every steampunk band in the UK, some from Germany, Victor Sierra, all the ones from the early days, and all the new ones at that time, pretty much everybody. And then 3 days before, I couldn't get hold of the promoter. I rang the venue, they couldn't get hold of the promoter. And it turned out they'd cancelled the event, kept the money, and that was it. But obviously Monty was already in England. He'd flown over from America to play at the festival.
Okay.
And so were quite a few other people. Abney Park flew over, but they didn't come in the end to our festival. Well, that's another story. And then, so I rang everybody and said, hey, we have the venue. They've ordered £15,000 worth of beer. There's a lot of people expecting a festival. The venue, which is a charity, is going to lose a lot of money. I know we have nothing to do all weekend. I can get friends to make a PA up, and we can make some lights. Shall we go anyway and make a festival and pass a hat round for our petrol fuel money? And nearly everybody said, yes, let's do it. So in 3 days we put a festival together from scratch.
Wow.
And then the next 2 years we ended up doing it again for one reason or another. One, we had to move to the venue, the other one they asked us to help them because they'd had a problem with the festival again. So the last 2 years we've actually done it on purpose.
Right.
And planned
the first one was in Wales, right?
Yeah, they're all in Wales at Llanfillin. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just into Wales in mid Wales. Very beautiful area and quite close to England really as well. So it's pretty handy for everybody. But yeah, it's an old Victorian workhouse. So it's quite very large, and it used to be where obviously poor people would have had to go, and so it's got a lot of history. There's actually a museum there, and they're actually a charity in their own right, trying to survive. They have part of it they've turned into units, so there's 2 recording studios in there.
Okay.
There's 3 or 4 art studios. They run a lot of local projects with children, and they have the local car boot there and things. But they have to raise money every month on top of any money they get, just to pay the bills. So I think our festival probably keeps them going 4 or 5 months, because we let them take all the money from the food and the beer and the camping, and we just take the ticket money and pay it to the band. But we do that as a non-profit as well. All the bands come for the same expenses. Okay. And then once the costs are paid, we split everything that's left between the nominated charity and all the bands again. So the bands get a bonus, and the charity gets half the profit. So again, it's a non-profit thing. Yeah, it's just good really, and it kind of provides a sanctuary in the middle of nowhere, in a Welsh town that's still got indoors and kind of nice for steampunk, where they can go and be themselves all weekend without, any problems really. And we're all inclusive. We don't care if people come dressed as a faun or fantasy or as a wizard or it's steampunk. So time travelling, you want to be a time travelling fantasy Elric style wizard, you can be. And nobody will say anything. Everybody's welcome. And yeah, we also run a vast range of music really, from chamber quartet to a metal band really.
Okay. How many people do you expect to come?
Last year we had over 300, nearly 400. This year we're expecting quite a few more, I think. We've already sold more tickets than last year by a good chunk. Okay. But we don't want it to go over 500 though, because we want to be able to keep on top of it and everybody to know each other. It's very friendly. Everybody knows each other at the festival. And we want to keep it like that really.
Right.
I mean, we never set out to do it to chase money. So we don't really need to get big.
Yeah, right. It's funny because the venue where Emporium Fornesk was in the Netherlands sounds very much alike as it comes to charity and activities for the youth and stuff like that. But are there any other charities you fund with the Phoenix Festival, or just the workhouse?
No, we all the money from the beer etc. goes to the workhouse, but the actual profit money, and we have tubs, and we have a raffle, and we have we get all the dancers and the pretty girls, models etc. to go around with buckets, and the pretty boys, by the way, basically hassle people with a bucket, and that goes to, this year it's going to Macmillan, which is a cancer charity, and next year we're changing the charity to Mind, which is a mental health charity. Okay. So every year we change the charity, but also we help the workhouse. So.
Yeah. It's a win-win for everybody, basically.
Yeah.
Oh,
but we thought it was nice. A lot of people in subcultures, and a lot of people we meet have had problems, for want of a better word, with the mental state. And quite a lot of people have said how nice it is to come to a place where they felt completely relaxed. So that kind of prompted us to go for the Mind charity next year. It kind of fits nicely. So.
Exactly, yeah. Let's see, what other... what can visitors expect and who will be performing this year?
Right. Yeah. We've got a lot, even more than last year, really. So we run 2 stages. One outside with a cover, kind of, and one inside. But we don't run them together, we alternate them. So it gives the bands time to change over, and when people go to the stage to watch the band, everything's ready and perfect, instead of people waiting half an hour while bands change over and bands being all rushed and stuff.
Right.
So indoors we have a theme, it's Jezebel's parlour. So we have a very nice compere Jezebel, and sometimes her Uncle Yori comes to visit too to help. So basically the bands, we set it up like they're playing in her front room, kind of, in a venue that holds a couple of hundred indoors, that's decorated and stuff. And they're the smaller acts usually, with 2 people or with playback, and then we run the outdoor stage, which is the full, outdoor stage setup. So yeah, we've got Tangerine Cat, which are kind of a gothy, it's hard to say really, industrial band I suppose. Vostok, which are a steampunk style space rock band really. The Cracked Actors, which are kind of vintage looking, but they play kind of really funky ska that everybody jumps around to. Feline and Strange, which are a duo and dark cabaret, kind of very soulful. We have a late night burlesque every night, cabaret really, for the last hour or so, and then DJs till whenever people go to bed. But the live music stops at 11. Then we've got the Copperfield Ensemble, which is pretty much a steampunk orchestra.
Right.
Barbel, which are a very freaky space rock band again, kind of folky a little. Metropolis, which we mentioned before. The Dark Design, which don't know if you know them. No. Oh yeah, they played at Arnhem at Tessa's.
Oh really? I missed them then.
Yeah, I played bass for them, helped them out. Yeah, they're just a lot of fun and kind of folky, rocky. Then we've got Dr. Hasbeen, which is actually Hawkwind's old guitarist, a friend of ours, his band. King Baines, which are kind of steampunk stoner rock, a bit like Nevada, I suppose. Oh. The Demons of Old Metal, which are a straight-on, very dark metal band, but they all dress as characters from horror from the 1800s, really, I suppose, like werewolf and vampire, and but very scary outfits, like it's a modern film.
Like Lordi, the guys that participated in the song festival, or
yes, but a little more tasteful and less rubbery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
They kind of just like characters from the League of Gentlemen or something, dressed like that.
Oh,
but
okay.
a very heavy band, really. Then we have the Wattingers, which are this freaky band I've mentioned, a kind of a horror, God knows, anyway. BB BlackDog, of course. And then we have some pretty crazy people. A friend of ours, Experimental Sonic Machines, which he builds his own musical instruments from old bits of electronica, basically. He was actually on Britain's Got Talent not long ago. Wearing a silver foil Viking helmet and a homemade giant guitar with 2 strings, I think, making an electronic noise. Yeah, anyway. So yeah, then we have Gurdybird, which is a fantastic steampunk pirate who plays hurdy-gurdy. Little Red Dog, 3-part vocal a cappella harmony, really. Are on our label.
Okay.
Then we've got. Oh, it just goes on, really.
Yeah, it does. And a lot of different things as well. It's
yeah, I don't want to forget anybody. And then, of course, we have Ichabod Steam with his full animatronic band. He has a full. It's not MIDI. It's not cheating. They actually play the real instruments, but the animatronic playing it. Yeah, all run by motors and wires and strings, not. So he'll be outside in the we have an area where we kind of call it the photo area, or better be polite about it. All steampunk like the photo taking, including me. So we've got these guys who make steampunk pear drop caravans, all covered in copper and fantastic.
Yeah.
So they're there with the little area making tea, and so people can have the photos taken. There's the time travelling tea tent, they're going to be running the. I shouldn't mention it really, but the hamster club.
I joined that Facebook group.
Anyway, so
okay.
I think there may be bear paw hamster fighting, but if anybody asks, 2 hamsters happened to fight, and any money that changed hands were nothing to do with the hamsters randomly fighting.
To do with the hamsters, got it. Yeah.
And no hamsters were injured in the making of the hamster club.
Of course not.
Only a few batteries.
Right.
Then we have Gosh, the Grand Order of the Steam Hammer, which are basically reenactment group we know. From Derby near me, actually. So they're coming down to do their crazy thing with weaponized fruit and a few things.
Wow, is that like the sharp pieces of mango?
Not really. Exploding melons and science experiments, really, in a Victorian style. Then we have some guys with plate photography with their own Victorian-style tent darkroom, and about 12 official photographers, because it always helps.
Right, yeah, it does, yeah.
And then in there will be constantly Ichabod Steam and his animatronic band playing randomly with a few guests and things.
Oh, okay.
So there's kind of 3 stages. Then we have a big craft area for the children, where we have lots of water pistols, Nerf guns, paint.
Okay.
And last year we had recycling from bike inner tubes and wicker basket making, a lot of crafts really for people to try.
Okay.
They were making wicker top hats last year, which looked very effective,
nice.
Steampunk style.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. It does.
And very freaky. Yeah, it looked very good.
Yeah, all scarecrow-like, I assume.
Yeah, and then of course there's a market with a lot of stalls and some demonstrations crafts. We've got a literary section with there's quite a few authors coming. A lot of walking acts. It just goes on really.
Yeah,
it
does.
There's even a Viking steampunk boat coffee wagon that comes to us every year, who does your fresh coffee in the morning.
Okay. Well, I think we'll let the visitors explore all the rest. Well, for the people who are listening live, don't forget you can ask questions in the chat. So if you have questions for Dale, please ask. Let's see. I had a little bit one of the more in-depth question for you. A while back on Facebook there was a bit of a kerfuffle. Someone saying that English steampunk bands were not steampunk. We all addressed that, I think. I addressed it on my blog. I think you addressed it as well. Do you think there is a difference between the steampunk music in the United States and over here in Europe? Or
well, we've toured America twice, and we've played some steampunk festivals and played with steampunk bands. And I personally played with a steampunk metal band in Texas. A band I really liked that were very similar to the Presidents of the United States, if you know them. Millions of peaches.
I've heard of them, but I don't know.
Millions of peaches, peaches for free. No, anyway, so I won't sing too long, or you might have to pay Guimar some money or something. Or the performing rights aside. And we played with Unwoman, who's just a kind of classical girl on a cello.
I've heard of her, yeah.
Well, yeah, we've played with and Darwin Project. We played with quite a few, and they're all very different the same. I've not bumped into quite so many kind of new wave electronic-y versions of steampunk and from the goth kind of style, unless of course you include Abney Park or something.
Oh, Schwarzblut, I suppose.
Which isn't far from it, but yeah, in
they
America.
Were originally a goth band, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so. But in England, sometimes you get the very kind of electronic-y style, a bit like, Depeche Mode or this kind of style, but with a steampunk feel, which kind of fits as well somehow. But
Now, a lot of the steampunk community thrives on the nostalgia.
Yeah. Obviously, in England, Whitby Gothic Festival, there's a very big steampunk turnout for that now. Even goths who say they aren't steampunk now are dressing very flamboyantly and more Georgian or Victorian than just the damn t-shirt and the black hoodie.
Right.
And the same in Leipzig. If you walk around Leipzig, we went last year, and amazing outfits all the time and a big steampunk following. So a lot comes from goth in Europe. I'm not so sure it's such a big influence in America. There seem to be a lot of reenactors and medieval Renaissance fantasy people kind of coming over. So I suppose that affects the music that they listen to. Naturally, it'll be more folky or Western style, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I talked about that with Marcus Rowles on the Non-Illusion Evercast last day. But like that, indeed, a lot of the steampunk come from the goth culture. So it's funny you start talking about that it comes in your area of in the United States from the Renaissance fair and reenactment. So yeah. I suppose there will be goths come over, and it sucks people in from a lot of different areas, LARPs and gamers but yeah, you could we bumped into a lot of people that had come over from the medieval. I mean, we did in Germany originally, but part of that might have been Michael Dunkelfels and his Starder Festival, Ether Circus, that's been going probably the longest now. And they came from a medieval, and a lot of their friends that were helping them came over from medieval. But then once we've gone to Leipzig and Bochum and places, we noticed it's still the big goth influence. It is. Let's see what else. You start to wonder whether steampunk will now influence the goth culture.
It already has. I'm sure it already has. You've just got to go to Leipzig and walk round, or Whitby Goth, or look at the old goth pages that's been around a long time on Facebook. You see more and more flamboyant Georgian, Victorian, like I said, definitely. And you see a lot of goth with goggles now as well.
Well, that's the cyber goth. I actually heard a theory that the steampunks actually got the goggle look from the cyber goth community.
Yeah, could well have done, but then, don't know, Victorian train drivers, anything steamy.
Yeah.
You probably had goggles. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, the steampunk surely took it to a whole new level. That's one thing. That's for sure.
But it's always hard to say. It's what I love about steampunk. It draws people in from everywhere. And there's so many influences and a lot of our friends are goths as well. We don't really discriminate. We just go out and people say it's a steampunk look. Yeah, it's a steampunk look. I'm dressed steampunk. Cool.
Yeah.
But
what I'm curious about now, how is it that such a powerful steampunk music scene came to exist? I mean, you're sure you've got like a goth scene, and you've got like the punk rock and psychobilly. I assume we're gonna see psychobilly anytime soon. But how? What you already noticed, like the 3 out of 5 rule. So it's kind of interesting that it became such a large, how the scene exploded?
I think really it was just there's never really been a definitive steampunk music. What anybody kind of wants to say. There's the bigger bands that you could say define it more than the smaller bands. Mm-hmm. But the whole point of it really has been there's no steampunk definitive genre. And I think the reason steampunk bands have grown is because steampunk festivals and events have grown on the whole, and there's been more of a demand. Mm-hmm. And A, bands have come up to fill that demand, and B, there's so many events, you can't just have the same few bands going to every event every time in every country. Yeah, simple as that, really. I mean, at the moment, there seems a shortage of the steampunk supergroups. You've got kind of Abney Park and Steampunk Giraffe and Steam Powered Giraffe, sorry, and there's no other real supergroups coming up. So you see a lot of the festivals, it's either one or the other or both. If it's a big festival, they kind of have to book them because there's nobody else. Whereas with the smaller bands, it's easy to say, you know, I've got a steampunk band, we'll come for €100 diesel, and you can fill the slot. So yeah, there's been a big growth in the smaller bands, but I've not really seen anybody jump up to the kind of steampunk supergroup level of those two I mentioned in many, many years, really.
Okay. Two more questions, and then I think we'll go to the final word. Will we see psychobilly make a breakthrough in the steampunk community?
Yeah, I mean we like we like psychobilly. We'd actually got our friends Vince Ripper and the Rodent Show supposed to be headlining at one of the nights at Phoenix, but unfortunately Vince has had to have a heart operation, so they can't come now, which is a big shame. But they are very kind of cramped influence gothic steampunk, really. They have crazy wooden machines that you stare into, you crank a handle and it shows old pictures in the electric light, and this is all kind of part of their show and merch stand. And but really they're a psychobilly band, really. Very, very cramped like.
They also go to the psychobilly gatherings.
Oh yeah, very much so, yeah. And punk, of course, and goth. There's a lot of crossover, especially, you know, on the darker, gothic-y, crampy style of psychobilly. There's a lot of crossover, obviously. So yeah, I mean, even the Wattingers with their deep south sound, it's still got that little feel almost going towards psychobilly rock and rolly because it's a deep southy kind of heavy sound.
Okay. Are there any new and up-and-coming steampunk bands people should be aware of that you have heard?
Many, really. Yeah. Victor and the Bully, a two-piece with backing track, and I think he plays a ukulele. They are a lot of fun. We've done a couple of festivals with them now. And they spend the whole weekend wandering around as a twosome busking, and then they do a really good live show as well, very energetic. And almost, very lively, almost into electro swing or something. It's a lot of fun party kind of music. Then Kiss Like Ether, they've been around a little while. But they're very kind of the new romantic side of it I was talking about. Very electronic, synthy. Yeah, but making a good sound. And of course the one I love totally, and I can't wait for the album, will be the Heaven and Hell Orchestra. Daniel Malheur's project. Basically he's got, I don't know if you know about this, but it's a whole backstory of a British band leader that got thrown out of England in the 20s, I think it was, for writing songs about the devil and trying to summon the devil and trying to time travel and do basically evil things. But so all the songs are basically orchestral arrangements of classic rock songs that then tell a story. about everything from the devil to time travel. But the orchestra's got together. Well, they all kind of Berlin Philharmonic, or I mean, Stoppel, the drummer, is a legend. Apart from being in a very famous rock band in Germany, I forgot the name on there. But anyway, he was also James Last's drummer for 18 years. So. And they're all really nice guys, and the quality's so good. So I can't wait for the release of that. That's the next big release I'm looking forward to.
Now, people all heard them, so they can all look them up on YouTube and I assume Spotify and websites like that. So yeah, we got a big catalog of new bands to go through because I never heard of most of them. Yeah, I don't see any new questions in the chat. I don't have any questions for you. Are there any questions you have for me?
Probably a lot just about life and how he's getting on, but probably not the best to do on air.
No, exactly.
So, yeah.
No, okay. Could you please explain to the visitors why they should come to the Phoenix Alternative Festival?
It's very simple, really. You will enjoy yourselves, and you will meet some really nice people, and we'll make some money for charity. Simple as that, really.